My name's Eli. I'm 23, and I just graduated with a double major in computer science and business. I was the first in my family to even attend college, let alone graduate top of my class. For most families, that might be a reason to celebrate. For mine, it was just another day, unless, of course, it was about my cousin Amanda's new Etsy store or my brother Jake's weekend football league. Then suddenly everyone had time, energy, and money to spare. But me finishing 4 grueling years with scholarships, late-night internships, and part-time jobs? That barely earned a grunt. Still, I tried. I'd always tried. Growing up in a house where attention was currency, I learned to overcompensate. I took care of the yard when Dad's back gave out. I helped Mom with groceries when Jake forgot again. And I even covered the heating bill last winter when Amanda accidentally overdrafted her account and couldn't pay her share of rent. I played the role of the good son, the helpful cousin, the quiet achiever. But after my graduation ceremony came and went with zero family in the stands, no call, no text, not even a late-night congrats, I decided to take one last swing at believing I mattered. I spent the little savings I had left booking a rooftop venue downtown. It wasn't 5-star, but it had string lights, a view of the skyline, and a built-in speaker system. I ordered everyone's favorite food, Jake's teriyaki wings, Amanda's vegan flatbread, even Grandma's weird obsession with coconut shrimp. I didn't want gifts or speeches. Just a night. One single night where I got to feel seen. I even made digital invites, complete with a Google Calendar reminder. I triple confirmed with everyone a week before, then again the night before. Every "can't wait" and "you deserve this" message gave me a flicker of hope I wish I'd snuffed out sooner. The night of the party, I got there an hour early. I wanted to make sure the food was set, the drinks were chilled, and the playlist I'd obsessed over was running smooth. I wore the one nice suit I owned, black, slim fit, barely clinging to the shoulders I'd been stress shrinking under for months. I stood by the entrance, smiling at every elevator ding like a Labrador hearing car keys. And then, nothing. 5 minutes turned into 30. 30 into an hour. The catering staff gave me polite nods, unsure if they should start cleaning up or wait. I kept glancing at my phone, refreshing messages, checking traffic reports, even convincing myself that maybe, just maybe, they had planned something bigger and this was all a setup. At exactly 8:47 p.m., when I was 3 Sprite cans deep and wondering if I should just take a cab home, my phone buzzed. It was a photo. Amanda had tagged everyone in it. Jake, Mom, Dad, Uncle Ron, even Grandma. They were all in matching pajamas, lounging on my parents' living room couch with pizza boxes stacked high and blankets thrown everywhere. The caption? Family movie night. We needed this. My fingers froze on the screen. I zoomed in. My grad photo, the one I had mailed to every relative weeks earlier, was crooked on the wall behind them, half covered by a balloon bouquet left over from Amanda's last soft launch party. My mouth went dry. There was no mistake. They weren't late. They weren't stuck in traffic. They were never coming. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I just sat down on one of the rented folding chairs and let the quiet hum of the city drown out the silence in my chest. I scrolled back through every message, every empty promise, every half-hearted, "We're so proud of you," that led to this moment. The food went cold. The venue manager gave me a sad little nod and said he'd waive the overtime charge. I didn't answer. I just nodded back. When I got home, my own apartment, paid for by the freelance gigs I juggled while still acing my finals, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the ceiling. The same ceiling I used to imagine big things under. Things like promotions, trips, and celebrations where my name wasn't forgotten halfway through a toast. And then it hit me. Hard. Like a switch flipping in a dark room. They needed me more than I ever needed them. That's when I pulled out my laptop. I logged into every shared utility account, electricity, internet. Even that little streaming bundle I'd added Amanda to last year because Hulu was too expensive for her right now. I had set it all up in my name. Every bill. Every convenience. All because it made me feel like I was part of something. I paused for a moment. It wasn't about revenge, not exactly. It was about clarity, about realizing that no matter how many pizza nights I covered or errands I ran, I would never be more than a background character in a movie they cast themselves in. I sent a single group text, "Good luck covering next month's bills without me." Then I blocked every number. Every single one. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Because 3 days later, the silence cracked. And when it did, it came with screams. It started with a Facebook status from my mom, One of those dramatic, cryptic rants she thinks makes her look like a stoic martyr, but just reeks of self-pity and guilt-tripping. Some people forget who was there for them when they had nothing. Just remember, karma's real. No tags. No names. But the comment section blew up within minutes. Aunt Linda chimed in with a popcorn gif. Uncle Ron dropped a spill the tea meme. And Amanda, because of course, replied with, "Hope they realize family isn't optional. We're all we have." I watched it unfold with the detached interest of someone flipping through a magazine they didn't plan to buy. Part of me expected someone, anyone, to message me directly. Maybe Jake with a half-hearted, "Hey, everything okay?" Or even Dad, pretending he didn't know what was going on. But no, silence. Until day 4. That morning, my phone lit up with a call from a number I recognized but hadn't seen in months, my dad's work phone. I let it ring out. Then it rang again. And again. Then my mom's cell. Then Amanda. Then a random text from Jake's girlfriend. "Hey, I think there's some confusion. Did something happen?" I ignored them all. But the one that made me laugh, a bitter, sharp laugh, came at 2:19 p.m. My dad, texting from his usual number now. "Why is the internet shut off?" I'm trying to log into work. No greeting. No, "Hey Eli." No mention of the party, no apology, no even slight acknowledgement of what had been done. Just a complaint. A demand. A reminder that in their eyes, I wasn't a son or brother. I was tech support. I didn't reply. I wanted to. Oh, how I wanted to. I drafted at least 3 different responses, some angry, some sarcastic, one with nothing but a link to a therapist directory, but in the end, I just powered off my phone and went to the gym. That night, I came home to 3 voicemails, all increasingly frantic. Mom's voice, shrill and shaky. "We don't understand what's going on. Your father can't access his payroll account, and the smart TV won't work." Amanda says she can't even get into the group plan. "Did something happen? Can we talk, please?" Still no, "Sorry we ditched your party." Still no, "We should have been there." Just a long list of minor inconveniences that suddenly made me a priority. By the end of the week, I started receiving mail, actual letters, because I had blocked every digital contact method. The first one was from Grandma. A shaky, handwritten note with her flowery cursive that read, "Eli, I don't know what's going on, but everyone's upset. Please call your mother. She's been crying for days." Crying? Now she was crying? Where were the tears when I was sitting alone on that rooftop, staring at uneaten shrimp and untouched cake? Where were they when I sent my graduation photos to the family group chat and got 3 likes and 0 comments? Where were they when I begged them for just one night? Still, Grandma was the only one who didn't actively mistreat me. So I called her. And the conversation made everything so much worse. She answered on the first ring, relief spilling out like steam from a kettle. "Oh, thank heavens, Eli. You had me worried sick." "I'm fine, Grandma." "I know, honey. But your mother, she's a mess." "Is that so?" "She said you've been acting cold. That you lashed out, shut everything down without warning." I held the phone tighter. "Did she tell you about my graduation party?" Pause. "No," Grandma said slowly. "She said something about a scheduling mix-up. That you threw something last minute and didn't confirm with anyone." I could feel the heat in my cheeks. A mix-up? I had receipts, calendar invites, text confirmations. Heck, I even had a voice memo from Amanda saying, "We're all set for Saturday. I can't wait." And now they were telling Grandma I never invited them properly? "Grandma," I said, my voice shaking, "I sent them everything. Weeks in advance. I paid for the venue. The food. I planned it around their schedules. They didn't forget. They just chose not to come." Silence again. Then her voice, softer. "I believe you. But your mother swears." Of course she does. Because if she admits the truth, she'd have to admit she doesn't actually care unless it benefits her. That was when Grandma said something that stuck with me for days after. "You've always been the one trying the hardest, Eli. Maybe it's time you let them try for once." I didn't say much after that. We said our goodbyes. I promised to call her again. And I meant it. But I didn't unblock anyone. I didn't resume the payments. I didn't cave. Instead, I started living like I was free. Because for the first time in years, I was. Except, freedom has a funny way of stirring up desperation. And desperate people? They don't go down quietly. Because just 1 week later, I came home to something that changed everything. It was a Thursday mid-morning, sunny, calm. I had just gotten back from a client meeting, feeling oddly light for someone who just cut off half their family. There was a silence to my apartment now that I was starting to enjoy. No buzzing texts. No surprise favors. No guilt-shaded requests pretending to be love. Just me, the hum of the fridge, and my peace. That was until I saw the envelope taped to my door. At first, I thought it was just a delivery slip or some kind of neighbor notice. But it had my name written in thick, slanted marker across the front. No return address. No postage. Just taped there, like a child's attempt at being dramatic. I pulled it down slowly, tore the flap open, and pulled out a single sheet of printer paper. Typed, double-spaced, and angry. Eli, I don't know who you think you are, but this little tantrum has gone too far. We've been over backwards for you your entire life, and one missed party doesn't justify this level of disrespect. Your father can't work, Amanda lost access to her Hulu, and now Grandma's worried sick. You're punishing the whole family because of some imagined slight. It's childish and cruel. I hope you're proud. Mom, no, love. No, sincerely. No hint of remorse or reflection. Just a typed accusation like I was an employee they were threatening to fire. I almost laughed. Almost. But it sat in my hand like a slap that didn't sting right away, just left a deep ache that crept up my arm and curled around my throat. Because that was the moment I knew there would be no apology. No quiet realization. No heart-to-heart phone call or teary-eyed doorstep visit. No. My mother was not the type to admit she'd treated her child like an afterthought for years. She was the type to rewrite the story, hand it out like gospel, and hope everyone else sang along. And maybe they would have. Maybe Grandma and Jake and the rest would have swallowed it like every other half-truth she'd served them over the years. But this time, I wasn't staying quiet. That night, I took out my old graduation slides, the ones I had put together for the party no one came to. I opened a free website builder, dropped the photos in, added screenshots of every text message confirming the invites, the receipts for the rooftop venue, even the playlist I never got to play. Then I wrote a single caption at the top, "Here's the graduation party you all missed." Not because you forgot, but because I never mattered enough to show up for. I posted it to my social media. Locked comments. No tagging. Just a quiet, permanent record of what happened. Of how I celebrated alone. And it exploded. Friends from college I hadn't spoken to in months sent messages like, "This broke me," and "I can't believe they did this." Even people I barely knew shared it, calling it gut-wrenching and the most honest thing I've ever read. By morning, I had 3 missed calls from Amanda, 2 from Dad, and 1 voicemail from Mom, voice trembling now, but still not quite apologetic. "Eli, this is too far. You're humiliating us. Why are you doing this?" Why? Because for once, they were feeling what I had felt all my life. Unseen, unheard, unimportant. That weekend, the fallout reached new levels. Amanda showed up at my apartment. I didn't let her in. She banged on the door for 5 full minutes before shouting through the wood, "You're not the only one who's been through stuff, you know. We all have our issues." I stood on the other side, arms crossed, silent. "Are you seriously just going to ghost us forever? Over a party?" But it wasn't about the party. It had never been about the party. It was about every time they made me feel like I was an obligation instead of a choice. Every time I was expected to give, only to be told later that I was too sensitive when I needed something back. It was about the years I made myself small so they could feel bigger. And now that I had taken my voice back, they were scrambling. Not because they cared, but because their comfort was slipping through their fingers. A few days later, I found out they were trying to spin it. Jake made a post about family always being messy, but worth fighting for. Amanda commented, "People forget how much we did for him." I didn't respond. Not to Amanda's shouting. Not to Jake's social media damage control. Not to the stream of guilt-laced messages that trickled in. Each one trying to reframe the narrative. "You're being unfair. We're still family. This isn't how adults handle problems." The irony was almost funny, considering I had spent years handling everything for them. Like the only adult in the room while they played emotional hot potato with every problem that came up. But it wasn't enough to go silent anymore. That only worked until they twisted my absence into a tantrum, a phase, or worse, a betrayal. If I really wanted to move on, I had to take back control of the entire narrative. Not just with receipts, but with finality. So I started cutting cords they didn't even realize were still plugged in. First, the finances. I'd been quietly covering more than just utilities. A few years back, when I got my first decent-paying internship, Mom asked me to help out by adding their cell phones to my family plan, said it'd save everyone money. At the time, I didn't question it. I felt proud, honestly, like I was finally contributing in a way that mattered. That same year, Jake's used car broke down, and I co-signed on a newer model to help him land a delivery job. Dad said it was temporary, just until Jake built some credit. He never did. Amanda once asked me for a short-term loan to help float her rent until her online store took off. I gave her $1,200. She never brought it up again. They thought I forgot. They thought I'd never enforce it. They were wrong. I started by closing the phone account. No warning. No grace period. Just gone. I called the provider, explained the situation, and had all 4 lines. Mine, theirs, even Amanda's, terminated by the end of the week. I ported my own number to a new carrier under a business plan. Next, I called the car dealership and requested to revoke authorization on Jake's payments. Since the car was still technically in my name and his payments had been late multiple times, it wasn't hard to justify. Within 3 days, the car was flagged for repossession. And Amanda? I didn't even need to do anything. I had kept the Venmo receipts. I simply emailed her a formal letter outlining the debt, attached every transaction, and let her know I was handing the balance over to collections within 30 days unless she arranged a payment plan. No emotion, just math. I expected backlash, but what I got was panic. Jake called from a random number. "Dude, what is this? They're trying to take my car." Mom left a voicemail sobbing. "Eli, this is too far. You're ruining your own family." Amanda emailed, saying she felt blindsided and betrayed, that I was weaponizing money against people who loved me. Loved me? They didn't love me. They loved what I gave them. The money, the favors, the silence. And now that I was taking that away, they were gasping for air in a vacuum of their own making. I stayed silent for another week. Then, I drafted one final message. Not to them, to everyone else. I wrote a post, not angry, not vindictive, just honest. I talked about growing up in a family where I was expected to play the background, how my successes were downplayed, my milestones ignored, and my support taken for granted. I included no names, no petty details, just the full truth. About the graduation party, the debts, the utility bills I'd been covering for 3 years. I posted it on my personal blog, where only a handful of friends still followed me. But within days, it was shared, and then shared again. It didn't go viral, exactly, but it found its way into a lot of inboxes and group chats. I started getting messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Old teachers, classmates, even neighbors who remembered how devoted I was to my family. Most of them said the same thing. "I had no idea. You always seemed like the strong one." That was the point. I had always seemed fine, because I was conditioned to make everyone else comfortable while I starved for validation. But no more. About 2 weeks after the post, Grandma called. I answered. She was quiet at first. Then she said something that took the breath out of my lungs. "They've started talking. Really talking. Not at me, to each other. I think your silence did what your presence never could." She told me Mom had been forced to ask for help from her own siblings, most of whom had kept their distance for years. Jake had started working longer hours. Amanda had apparently begun offering flash sales on her store just to keep up with her credit card bills now that her rent was back to full price. It wasn't revenge. It was a reckoning. I didn't revel in their struggle, but I also didn't rush to fix it. For once, I wasn't the cleanup crew. I wasn't the safety net. I was free, and I didn't just sit in that freedom, I built on it. I used the emotional clarity to focus on my career. Launched my own freelance tech consulting firm. Picked up clients who respected deadlines, paid on time, and didn't treat me like an accessory to their own success. I traveled for work, Seattle, Boston, even a stint in Berlin. And every time I saw a rooftop venue or passed a family taking graduation photos, I didn't feel hollow anymore. I felt whole. I still talk to Grandma. She's the only one who never tried to gaslight me into silence. Sometimes she tells me little updates, how Jake's slowly growing up, how Mom's quieter now, how Amanda's finally learning what a budget is. I don't ask for these details, but I don't stop her either. I think she knows I'm not waiting for redemption. I'm just done. One day, maybe, years from now, someone will try to reach out, to apologize. Maybe they'll even mean it. But by then, I won't be waiting. Because healing didn't come from hearing sorry. It came from realizing I never needed it in the first place.